It's time to sing some melodies. It's time to sing some melodies. Yeah. Now, there's really three ways that you can use mixture. And the first way is that you pull a harmony from the parallel minor. So let's imagine that you're in major, you're plugging along, and you think, oh, I could write a 4 chord right here, but I want to write a special 4 chord. I'm going to write a 4 chord as if I was in minor. So I'm going to write a minor 4 chord. So you're plugging along, and then instead of having the 4 chord, the major 4 chord you expect, you put in a minor 4 chord. And this first example is an instance of this kind of mixture. All right, let's look at this hymn setting by Harry Burleigh for some clear examples of this. Each phrase is shown with a phrase marking, so if you look at that first phrase under the first phrase marking, clearly in D major, we're just hanging on a D major chord. The second phrase ends on a half cadence with that A major chord. Now the third phrase, nice augmented chord, we'll get to that next semester. But we've got this 5-7-4 that goes to a 4 chord, but then goes to a 2 diminished 6. And it's diminished because it's E, G, B flat, which is an E diminished chord. But E diminished does not live in D major. E diminished lives in D minor. And so Burleigh is bringing in a chord from D minor. He's bringing in the version of 2 that would exist in D minor to stand in as a 2-6 in this phrase. So you've got 5-7-4 to 4-6-4 to a 2 diminished 6. And you make sense of that 2 diminished 6 by saying that we're pulling the version of the 2 chord that would live in D minor, not in D major. And then in the second line, you've got a nice deceptive cadence with an applied chord to 6 with that A sharp in the bass. And then to get into the final cadence, we have a minor 4 chord, G minor. You would usually have a G major 4 chord in D major. Your 4 chord in D major would usually be a G major chord. But Burleigh is saying, hey, how about I use the version of 4 that would exist in D minor? Let me pull that G minor chord from the key of D minor, the parallel minor, and I'll mix up my modes to use a minor 4 chord instead of a major 4 chord. And that gets us to our final cadence. And I want you to sing the top line. Ba ba da 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 mi re mi do do so mi fa re re, and so on. But also to get the mixture in to your ears, I want you to sing the tenor line, which I'm showing here with fuchsia. I never really know what color fuchsia is. With purple circles. So you're singing that line too. You're singing two things: the top line and the circled line, which has the 2 instances of mixture in it. Burleigh was a African American composer. His grandparents were descended from folks who were enslaved. He studied at the National Conservatory when the United States had a national conservatory, and he studied with Dvorak, and ended up being a pretty well-known and influential composer in the early 20th century. Now remember we said that there were 3 ways that we could use mixture. And that first way was used in that Burleigh example where you take a chord from the parallel minor or the parallel major and you use that chord as if you're briefly in the parallel mode. Here's another example of that. So like in Moana with the pre-chorus before she goes, but no one knows how deep it goes. Before that, when you get the pre-chorus, you've got, I can lead with pride, I can make us strong, I'll be satisfied if I play along, but the voice inside sings a different song. What is wrong with me? Oh, but that's not what happens. You could be getting a 2-6-5 chord, but you're not. You actually get a minor 2-6-5 chord. What is wrong with me? So it's a half diminished 2-6-5. What is wrong with me? So you're bringing in that 2-6-5 as if it was in minor for a second, to add this like crunch. And so what you end up with is I can lead with pride, I can make us strong, I'll be satisfied if I play alone, but the voice inside sings a different song. What is wrong with me? You get that crunch from bringing in the minor 2-6-5 chord with me, and then see the light and the light and the sea. It's blinding, but no one knows how deep it goes. So this is an example of bringing in a chord from the parallel minor to add a little color and drama to your chord progression. Another way is that you could have an extended section in minor. So like maybe you have one phrase in major, and then to sort of show this like downturn, maybe the words of your song are turning sad or whatever, then you've got the next phrase just is in minor for a little while. And so it's not just like this momentary pull from minor, it's like you are just living in minor for a phrase. And that's what's going on with this next example that we're going to sing, the Samuel Coleridge Taylor's Sweet Evenings Come and Go, My Love. It's two phrases from that song. So if let's sing through this. Notice that after the first 8 bars, you go to F minor. So you're starting in F major, and then you're going to F minor for the last 8 bars of the piece. Now, you also have an F sharp at the beginning, which is going to be D, E flat, which is going to be Te, and so on. So there's a couple other chromatic pitches that you just keep your eyes out for. So 1, 2, 3. And so what you're going to do is you're just going to change the me's to mays, the la's to lays, and everything, but your do is going to stay the same, your so is going to stay the same. Notice that in that second system, like I was saying about T versus Te, that T there is not really considered like a moment of majorness. It's just that every time that that we've sung something in F minor so far in your 2-semester of ear training, you use E natural, you use T, and so that's not like a unusual thing that we have to explain via mixture. It's just like you use T when you're in minor. Samuel Coleridge Taylor was a British composer whose family was of African heritage. He studied with Charles Stanford in London, and ended up being a well-known and influential composer in the late 19th century. Another example, So Happy Together. Imagine me and you. So happy together. I'm terrible at pop music words. So you're in clearly minor, using Te in the bass, lay, and so, but then with the chorus, right, you get an E, a major 1 chord, and so, da da da. So it's a example of like turning on the lights. That yes, suddenly you're in major, wee, and so it's bright. Now, another way that mixture can work is you can use lay and may when you're in major just as like passing. It's a little like more just momentary color than pulling in a whole chord or a whole section even from a parallel key, from the parallel mode. So here we have a piece in B flat. You sort of scan through it and check out the lower line, the left hand there, you've got an A flat, and that goes down to a G, so that would be te going down to la. Now, that's not mixture, because the te going down to la fits into our paradigm of a 5-4-2 of 4. So, te la is probably a 5-4-2 of 4 going to a 4. So that's not mixture. That's an applied chord. On the other hand, look at the right hand there, the top line, and you've got a G going down to a G flat going down to an F. Now that there is a la going to a lay to a so. That is a chromatic passing tone, and that chromatic passing tone is being drawn from the parallel minor. So this is brief mixture that's being used just as a passing tone. And we've got the same sort of thing going on in the lower line of the second system here. You have a, at the end of the first line, going to a, and that G flat is acting as a passing tone. Now, this piece is pulling the G flat from the parallel minor, but we could imagine it as basically acting as this harmonic passing moment between la and so. So let's try to sing this through. I'll play both lines. I want you to sing both lines, so you can just rewind me and redo this from the beginning and try both lines. Practice. All right. Let's try this. 1, 2, 3. I took this from a piece called Grata Esperanza. It's by Francisca Gonzaga. She was the first Brazilian woman to be a major conductor in Brazil. She was also a composer. Her work was marrying Western European influences with influences from Brazil. For chuckles, let me play this full texture for you. Then it goes on from there. Major light, minor dark.
Major dark.
That's right. Major light, minor dark. Now, because A New Hiding Place, that short excerpt from H2 Burley, was such a good example of the chordal mixture that we're talking about, I'd like you to play that as your keyboard thing this week. If you're not a pianist, just play the top line, and you can use both hands to get all the notes in. But if you're not a pianist, just play the treble clef line. If you are a pianist, play both and go from the beginning of the excerpt to the end. In other words, you're not only singing the top line and the tenor, but you're also playing this. And then in addition to that, our arpeggios are based on this example as well. So we're basically starting in the third phrase with this. And I've taken a couple of liberties with these arpeggios, but let's just think of a couple of the solfege here. So the 5-7 of 4 is going to involve te. That minor 4 chord is going to be fa, lay, do. Now the next weird one is going to be the 7-7 of 6, which is going to be raised 5 or C, and then T, re, fa, and then goes to 6. And then you've got one more minor 4 chord, and then we're good. 1, 2, ready, and. lighting and sound is really good. I'm glad to have you back, Jenny. And I'm glad to have you back, Doug. Alright, so what are we up to this week? So for the performance, and again, synchronous and asynchronous are going to be the same. You're going to sing your warm-up, which means that you're going to sing a well-known tune in both its original mode, and then you're going to flip. That can mean from major to minor or minor to major, depending on what the mode of the original tune is. Then your melodies are a new hiding place, and you're going to sing the melody and the tenor voice. And then Sweet Evenings Come and Go, My Love. And then both lines, the top line and the bottom line of Grata Esperanza. For keyboard, you're going to play a new hiding place. And pianists, I want you to play both hands, and non-pianists can just play the right hand. Again, you can use both hands, non-pianists, to get those notes in, but you're just reading the notes of the treble clef. And then your sung arpeggios are just this kind of long single progression, which is drawn from a new hiding place. Owl, you'll have a 2-part dictation and no quick reactions this week. But next week, we're going to have a short assignment because it's over Thanksgiving week. And there's going to be just one melody and there's going to be 3 arpeggios. And we're sticking with the topic of mixture. And there's only going to be a quick reaction on Owl. The week after that, we're on the final. So so after Thanksgiving, look for a video that walks through what's going on in the final and some review.
Major light, minor dark, major light, minor dark, major light, minor dark. Yeah, that's right. And then minor dark. Bye.